Prologue. The night Liam finally came to apologize, he stood on my doorstep holding the apartment listings we had once circled together. They were wrinkled now, folded down the middle and softened at the edges, as if he had carried them around for hours before finding the courage to knock. I recognized the top page immediately. It was the two-bedroom place on Hawthorne Street with the bay window, the narrow kitchen, and the little second room we had jokingly called the future. 8 weeks earlier, I had imagined my books on the shelves in that room. Liam had imagined a desk. Then we had laughed and said we would fight about it after we signed the lease. Now he stood beneath the yellow porch light, looking like a man who had finally discovered that a door could close from both sides. "Jennifer," he said quietly, "can we talk?" My eyes dropped to the papers in his hand again, and a small laugh escaped me before I could stop it. It wasn't a happy sound. It was sharp and bitter, and it seemed to surprise both of us. Of course, he had brought the apartment listings. What else could he have brought? We no longer had shared plans, ordinary conversations, private jokes, or even the simple trust that had once made silence between us feel comfortable. There was nothing left connecting us except a stack of old advertisements for a life we would never live. He had brought the remains of our future because he had nothing else. I should have felt triumph. For 2 months, I had dreamed of the moment when the truth would become so obvious that he would be forced to see it. I had imagined him realizing that the helpless new receptionist he had defended so fiercely had never needed rescuing. I had imagined him remembering every lunch she had ruined, every insult he had allowed, every time he had called me jealous while she smiled behind his shoulder. I had imagined him understanding how much he had hurt me. But when the moment came, I felt almost nothing. That frightened me more than anger ever had. Liam looked tired. His tie was missing, his shirt was creased, and his hair was damp from the light rain. A month earlier, I would have reached for him without thinking. I would have pulled him inside, dried his hair with a towel, made coffee, and listened until his excuses began to sound like reasons. That was the woman he expected to find. She no longer lived there. "I was wrong," he said. The words hung between us. I waited. He swallowed. "About Chloe, about you, about everything." There it was, the confession I had begged for when I still loved him enough to need it. Behind him, rain tapped softly against the metal railing. Somewhere down the street, a car door slammed. My apartment was warm, and I could smell the soup I had left simmering on the stove. For one strange second, I remembered another bowl of soup, carried into this same apartment by Liam's sister while I shook with fever and tried not to cry. Liam had not brought that soup. He had been at home with Chloe, laughing while they decided I was pretending to be sick to get his attention. "I know what she did," he continued. "I know she was manipulating me." I almost smiled again. Not because it was funny. Because even now, he had begun with what she had done to him. He looked down at the apartment listings in his hand. At the company retreat, she met a manager from the Westbrook branch. The moment she realized who he was, I became nothing more than a friendly coworker. His voice broke on the last sentence. That was when I understood why he had come. He had not returned because he finally understood my pain. He had returned because Chloe had given him a taste of it. I tightened my hand around the edge of the door. To understand why the man I had once planned to marry was standing in the rain, holding the last useless pieces of our abandoned future, and asking for another chance, I have to go back 8 weeks, to the moment a new receptionist walked into his office and began testing how easily he could be pulled away from me. Chapter 1. Liam and I had been together for 8 months when we started looking for an apartment. 8 months may not sound like a long time, but our relationship had never felt new. From the first week, there had been an ease between us that made ordinary moments feel settled and familiar. We met in the lobby cafe of the office complex where we both worked. He was a sales manager for a regional logistics company on the 6th floor. I worked in marketing for a smaller software firm in the building next door. The morning we met, the coffee shop was crowded, the card reader was down, and I discovered I had left my wallet in my desk. I was already late for a meeting and trying to decide whether dignity was worth sacrificing for caffeine when the man behind me paid for my coffee. "You look like this might be a medical emergency," he said. I turned around, ready to be annoyed, and found him smiling, Not the practiced smile of a salesman, but something warmer and slightly crooked. "I'll pay you back," I told him. "You can buy tomorrow's coffee." That was how it started. Tomorrow's coffee became lunch. Lunch became dinner. Dinner became a Saturday drive to the lake, where we stayed until the sky turned orange and neither of us wanted to say goodbye. Liam was confident without seeming arrogant. He remembered little things. He knew I hated raw onions, that I listened to old songs when I was stressed, and that I always read the last page of a book too early. When he traveled for work, he sent me photographs of ridiculous hotel art. When I had a difficult presentation, he left a muffin on my desk with a note that said, "You already know what you're doing. Make them catch up." I fell in love with him quickly, and because he fell just as quickly, I never questioned the speed. By our 8th month, we spent most nights at one apartment or the other. My place was closer to work, but his had a better kitchen. We had 2 sets of toiletries, duplicate phone chargers, and a continuing argument about which one of us had stolen the good pillow. Moving in together felt less like a dramatic step and more like admitting what was already true. One Sunday morning, we sat at my kitchen table with coffee, laptops, and a list of apartments. Liam had created a spreadsheet with rent, commute times, parking, laundry, and what he called general livability. "You made a color-coded spreadsheet," I said. "I manage sales forecasts. This is romance in my language." I laughed and leaned across the table to kiss him. We agreed on a budget. Liam earned more than I did, but my salary was stable, and I had always managed my money carefully. I insisted that we choose a place we could both afford comfortably. "I don't want you stretching yourself just to prove a point," he said. "I'm not proving anything. I want this to feel like ours." His expression softened. "Ours," he repeated. That word stayed with me all day. We had even talked, carefully and half-jokingly, about marriage and children someday, not soon, but as part of the life we believed we were building. Neither of us treated those ideas as promises with dates attached, yet both of us spoke as though the same future belonged to us. We toured 3 apartments the following weekend. The first had stained carpet and a landlord who kept calling the bedroom cozy because he was afraid to say small. The second was beautiful but far beyond our budget. The third was the place on Hawthorne Street. It had hardwood floors, a bay window, and a small second bedroom painted pale gray. I stood in the doorway and imagined a desk, shelves, maybe a reading chair. Liam came up behind me and rested his chin on my shoulder. "This could be the future," he said. "The future has terrible paint. We'll fix it." I turned in his arms. "You hate painting." "I'll supervise." I pushed him away, laughing, and the leasing agent smiled at us as if she had already decided we belonged there. We did not apply that day. Liam wanted to compare a few more places, and I agreed. There was no urgency. We believed we had time. That evening, Liam printed the Hawthorne Street listing along with 2 other possibilities. We circled the features we liked, made notes in the margins, and left the pages beside our apartment spreadsheet on my kitchen table. That same Monday, a new receptionist started at Liam's company. Her name was Chloe Bennett. The first time he mentioned her, we were eating takeout at his apartment. He said the new girl at the front desk had had a difficult first day. The phone system had confused her, 2 visitors had arrived at once, and one of the senior sales representatives had snapped at her. "She's young," Liam said. "New city, new job. I think she's overwhelmed." I barely looked up from my noodles. "That's rough. Did someone help her?" "I did." "Of course you did." I meant it affectionately. Liam liked being useful. He liked solving problems, giving advice, becoming the person others relied on. I had once found that quality generous. He smiled. "She reminds me of my sister when she first started working." That sentence would become his explanation for everything. At the time, it sounded harmless. Chapter 2. For the first 2 weeks, Chloe existed in my life only through Liam's stories. Chloe had missed a bus, so Liam had shown her which route to take. Chloe had forgotten lunch, so he had ordered extra. Chloe was confused about a benefits form, so he had stayed late to help her. Chloe had cried in the break room because her former boyfriend was making things difficult, though Liam never seemed to know exactly what that meant. "She's going through a lot," he would say. I believed him. Why wouldn't I? I had no reason to suspect a woman I had never met. If anything, I was proud of Liam for being kind to a new employee. I knew what it felt like to start a job where everyone else already understood the rules. A little help could make a humiliating first week bearable. Then, one Tuesday, Liam invited her to lunch with us. It happened without discussion. I walked into our usual cafe and found Chloe already sitting beside him in the booth, her coat draped across the space where I normally sat. She was younger than I expected, perhaps 23 or 24, with long blonde hair, pale blue eyes, and an expression of careful uncertainty. She stood too quickly when she saw me. "You must be Jennifer," she said. "Liam talks about you all the time." The words were friendly. Something in her tone was not. I told myself I was imagining it. Liam moved her coat, and I sat across from them. Chloe apologized for joining us 3 times in the first 5 minutes. Each apology made it harder to object without looking unkind. "I just don't know anyone here yet," she said. "Liam said you wouldn't mind." I looked at him. He gave me a quick smile. "I knew you'd understand." That became another phrase I learned to dislike. "I knew you'd understand" meant he had already made the decision. The lunch was awkward but not disastrous. Chloe asked me questions about marketing and then interrupted my answers to ask Liam about his clients. She laughed loudly at jokes that were not funny. When the server came, she said she was not hungry and ordered tea. 10 minutes later, when our food arrived, she stared at my sandwich. "That looks so much better than I expected," she said sadly. "Do you want to order one?" I asked. She hesitated. "I shouldn't. This place is kind of expensive." Before I could respond, Liam waved to the server and ordered a sandwich for her. "You don't have to do that," Chloe protested. "It's lunch, not a mortgage." She smiled at him with shining gratitude. I paid for my own meal and went back to work alone because Chloe needed Liam to show her where the nearest pharmacy was. That was the first lunch. The second time, she arrived after we had ordered. She slid into the booth beside Liam and announced that the smell of fried food was making her nauseated. "I'm so sorry," she said, pressing a hand to her stomach. "Could we go somewhere else?" My soup had already arrived. Liam looked at me. "Would you mind?" "Yes," I said, because I was tired and hungry. "I already have food." The silence that followed was immediate and heavy. Chloe lowered her eyes. "It's okay. I'll just go back to the office." She began a stand. Liam touched her arm. "No, it's fine. We can go to Miller's." Then he looked at me as if I were the one creating the problem. "You can have that packed up, right?" I stared at him. The soup steamed between my hands. I had an afternoon meeting in 25 minutes. Miller's was a 10-minute walk in the wrong direction. "I'm staying," I said. Liam's mouth tightened. "Okay." He and Chloe left together. Through the cafe window, I watched her say something that made him laugh. She did not look nauseated anymore. I ate half the soup and threw the rest away. When Liam called that evening, he acted as if nothing unusual had happened. "You were quiet at lunch," he said. "You left me sitting alone after I had already ordered." Chloe felt sick. She felt well enough to walk to another restaurant. He sighed. "Jennifer, she's dealing with anxiety. You don't know everything she's been through." "Neither do you." The words came out sharper than I intended. He went silent. I softened immediately. "I'm not saying you shouldn't help her. I'm saying I don't like being treated as if my time doesn't matter." "No one said that." "You didn't have to." He apologized, but it was the kind of apology that made me feel unreasonable for needing one. "I'm sorry lunch got weird," he said, "but you know I'm just trying to be decent." I wanted the conversation to end. I wanted us to go back to apartment listings and paint colors and the easy version of ourselves. So I accepted it. The next week, Chloe joined us again. And the week after that. Soon, our lunches were no longer ours. They were 3-person performances in which Chloe played fragile, Liam played rescuer, and I was assigned the role of the cold woman who did not understand. Chapter 3. Chloe's cruelty was never obvious enough to hold in my hand. That was what made it effective. She did not insult me directly. She asked questions. "Jennifer, do you always wear such neutral colors?" "Jennifer, Are marketing jobs less stressful than sales? Jennifer, don't you ever feel strange that Liam earns so much more? Each question arrived wrapped in a smile. If I reacted, she blinked innocently. If I ignored it, she looked pleased. One afternoon, she reached across the cafe table and touched the sleeve of my gray dress. "This is so practical," she said. "I wish I could dress like I didn't care what anyone thought." Liam laughed. I looked at him. "What's funny?" He glanced between us, suddenly cautious. "Nothing. It was just the way she said it." The way she said what? Chloe's eyes widened. "Oh, Jennifer, I meant it as a compliment." "Of course you did." Liam leaned back. "Can we not do this?" "Do what?" "Turn everything into a competition." I felt heat rise into my face. "I'm not competing with anyone." Chloe stared down at her drink, hiding a smile behind the straw. That smile bothered me for the rest of the day. When I tried to explain it to Liam that evening, he rubbed both hands over his face. "She's nervous around you because she thinks you dislike her." "I dislike the way she behaves." "You barely know her." "I know she makes a comment about me every time we meet." "She teases everyone." "No, she teases me and she watches you to see whether you'll defend her." His expression changed. It became colder, almost embarrassed. "You hear yourself right." "What does that mean?" "It means you're assigning some elaborate motive to a girl who is having a hard time." "A girl?" He always called her a girl when he wanted her to seem harmless. "She is an adult woman," I said, "and I'm telling you she is deliberately trying to make me uncomfortable." "Or maybe you're uncomfortable because you're used to being the center of my attention." The sentence landed so hard that I stopped breathing for a second. Liam had never spoken to me that way before. I waited for him to take it back. He did not. Instead, he picked up his phone and glanced at the screen. A message had arrived. I knew who it was before I saw the name. "Chloe." He turned the phone face down. "What does she need now?" I asked. His jaw tightened. "That tone is exactly what I'm talking about." I wanted to say that my tone had not appeared from nowhere. It had been built one canceled plan, one interrupted lunch, and one private joke at a time. But I was suddenly too tired. "Fine," I said. "Let's talk about the apartment." He looked surprised. We had another viewing scheduled for Saturday. The building was close to both offices and within our budget. I had emailed him the listing twice. Liam picked up his glass and stared at it. "I might have to work Saturday." "You told me you were free." "Things changed." "What things?" "Chloe is covering the desk alone, and there's a client presentation. I should be there." "She's a receptionist. Why does her being alone mean you need to cancel an apartment viewing?" His eyes hardened. "Because I'm part of the management team, Jennifer. If the front desk falls apart during an important client presentation, it affects all of us." Chloe reported to the office administrator, not to Liam. He could have checked in without sacrificing our plans, but he said it with enough authority that challenging him would have created another argument. I canceled the viewing. The landlord rented the unit to someone else. After that, apartment hunting slowed. Liam stopped sending listings. When I brought them up, he said the market was bad or work was busy or we should not rush. The word "hours" disappeared from our conversations. I noticed other changes too. He answered Chloe's calls during dinner. He drove her home when it rained. He knew the details of her former relationship, her financial worries, her headaches, and her fear of driving on highways. Yet when I told him about a difficult day at work, he often checked his phone while I spoke. I began measuring my sentences, trying to keep them interesting enough to hold his attention. That realization humiliated me. Love should not feel like an audition you are slowly losing. Still, I stayed. I told myself that relationships passed through difficult seasons. I told myself Liam was compassionate, not disloyal. I told myself Chloe would settle into the job, make friends, and stop needing him. Mostly, I told myself that the man who had once left a muffin on my desk before a presentation could not become a stranger so quickly. I did not understand, yet that people rarely become strangers in a single moment. They do it in pieces. Chapter 4. The invitation to Liam's aunt's anniversary party had been on our calendar for a month. It was a large family gathering at his parents' house, the kind with rented tables in the backyard, too much food, children running between adults, and relatives asking questions about marriage before dessert. Liam's family had welcomed me from the beginning. His mother sent me recipes. His father asked about my work. His younger sister, Grace, was direct, funny, and impossible not to like. She worked at a pharmacy near my apartment and had once told Liam that if he hurt me, she would personally change the locks on his apartment while he was at work. The party mattered to me. That morning, Liam texted that he had to run an errand and would meet me there. I assumed he meant a work errand. When I arrived, I carried a bowl of pasta salad in one hand and a wrapped gift in the other. Grace opened the door and immediately looked past me. "Where's my idiot brother? He said he'd meet me here." Her eyebrows lifted. "He didn't pick you up." I told him I could drive. That was not exactly true. I had offered after he said his timing was uncertain. 20 minutes later, a car pulled into the driveway. Liam got out of the driver's side. Chloe stepped out of the passenger side. For a moment, the entire backyard seemed to tilt. She wore a light blue dress and carried nothing. Liam came around the car, said something to her, and placed a guiding hand at the middle of her back as they walked toward the house. Grace, standing beside me, whispered, "You have got to be kidding." Liam saw us and smiled as if the situation required no explanation. "Hey, sorry we're late. Chloe's car broke down and she didn't have anywhere to go today." Chloe gave me an apologetic smile. I told him I didn't want to intrude. I looked at Liam. "You invited her to your family's anniversary party." My mom said it was fine. His mother, who had just come through the patio door, looked startled. "I said no one should spend the day alone," she clarified. "I didn't realize." "It's okay," Chloe said quickly. "I can leave." Again, she made the offer only after she knew Liam would stop her. And he did. "No, you can't. Your car is at the shop." He turned to me. "Jennifer, please don't make this uncomfortable." The humiliation of that sentence was sharpened by the fact that his family heard it. I had not raised my voice. I had not asked Chloe to leave. I had simply asked why she was there. Yet within seconds, I had become the threat to everyone's comfort. Grace stepped forward. "Liam, maybe you could talk to Jennifer privately." "There's nothing to talk about," he said. Chloe touched his arm. "Really, I don't want to cause trouble." "You're not," he told her. The words were meant to reassure Chloe, but his eyes remained on me. I felt every person nearby, pretending not to listen. So I smiled. That was something I had become good at, smiling so other people would not have to acknowledge what was happening. "Come in," I said. "There's plenty of food." Chloe brightened. "Thank you, Jennifer. I knew you'd understand." She used his phrase. I wondered whether he had taught it to her, or she had learned it by listening. The afternoon was worse than I expected. Chloe attached herself to Liam's side. She asked his relatives questions about his childhood, laughed at old stories, and looked delighted whenever someone mistook her for a family friend. When Liam's aunt asked how long we had been together, Chloe answered before I could. 8 months, she said. They're practically an old married couple. Her smile suggested the opposite. Later, when the family gathered for photographs, Chloe stood back. Liam's mother politely invited her into one group picture. Chloe stepped directly beside Liam. I ended up on the far side of Grace. "Switch with me," Grace muttered. "It's fine." "No, it is." But the photographer was already counting. In the photograph, Chloe is leaning slightly toward Liam. I am smiling from 4 people away. I never kept a copy. The final humiliation came during dinner. Liam's uncle asked whether we had found an apartment yet. I opened my mouth, but Liam answered first. "We've slowed that down." His uncle looked between us. "Changed your minds." "I just think Jennifer gets attached to plans too fast," Liam said. A few people laughed uncertainly, assuming it was a joke. I stared at him. That was a plan we made together. Chloe lowered her eyes to her plate. Liam sighed loudly. "This is what I mean. Everything becomes a big emotional issue." The table went quiet. My face burned. His mother said his name in warning. "Liam." But he had already committed to proving his point. "We've been together 8 months," he continued. "There's no reason to act like a lease is a marriage contract." I felt as though he had taken every private conversation we had shared, every promise, every imagined room, every quiet use of the word ours, and dropped them onto the table for strangers to examine. Then I looked at Chloe. She was watching me. For 1 second, her expression changed. The helplessness disappeared. The anxious young woman vanished. She smiled. It was small, satisfied, and unmistakable. I understood then that she was not accidentally taking my place. She was testing whether Liam would give it to her. And he was passing every test. I left the table before dessert. Grace followed me to the driveway. "Do you want me to drive you home?" she asked. I drove myself. "Right," she looked toward the house, furious. "I don't know what's wrong with him." I did not cry until I was inside my car. Even then, I cried silently, with both hands gripping the steering wheel, because some foolish part of me was still afraid Liam might come outside and see me being exactly as emotional as he had accused me of being. He did not come outside. Much later, after the company retreat, Grace told me that Liam had finally admitted Chloe's car had never broken down. She had only told him she felt unsafe driving on the highway. Liam had turned that into a breakdown and claimed her car was at the shop because even he knew the truth, that he had brought a coworker to a private family celebration simply because she wanted a ride, would sound worse. Chapter 5. After the family party, I did something I am not proud of. I apologized. Not for anything specific. I apologized for the tension, for reacting in front of his family, for making the afternoon difficult. I used careful words because I wanted Liam to remember that I was reasonable. He accepted my apology as if he had been waiting for it. That should have told me everything. Instead, I felt relief. For several days, he was affectionate again. He brought coffee to my office. He called after work. He even sent me an apartment listing, though when I suggested a viewing, he said the following month might be better. I mistook temporary kindness for repair. One Friday night, he came to my apartment with takeout and a bottle of wine. We watched a movie we barely followed. He held me on the couch the way he had at the beginning, his fingers moving slowly through my hair. For a few hours, Chloe did not exist. I remember thinking, this is us. This is still us. Later, in bed, the distance between us finally seemed gone. I will not turn that private moment into something graphic. What mattered was the tenderness afterward, the vulnerable quiet in which I rested against him and allowed myself to believe we had found our way back. His phone vibrated on the nightstand. He ignored it once. It vibrated again. Then again. Liam reached for it. I felt his body tense as he read the screen. "What is it?" "Chloe has a migraine." I closed my eyes. Then she should take something and sleep. She doesn't have anything at her apartment. There's a pharmacy 3 blocks from her building. He sat up. She says she's dizzy. My skin went cold, despite the warmth of the room. "You're not going there." It was the first time I had said it so directly. Liam turned on the lamp. "She needs aspirin." "She needs aspirin," I repeated. "And you're going to leave my bed right now to bring it to her." "Don't make it sound like that." "How else should I make it sound?" He swung his legs over the side of the bed and reached for his clothes. I sat up, pulling the sheet around myself. The tenderness of minutes earlier now felt humiliating, almost unreal. "Liam, she can order medicine. She can call a taxi. She can ask a neighbor. There are pharmacies everywhere." She called me. "That is the problem." He turned. "No, the problem is that you hear someone is sick, and your first reaction is to calculate all the other ways they could get help. My first reaction is to wonder why my boyfriend is her emergency contact. She doesn't have anyone. She has trained you to believe that." His expression hardened. I knew I had lost him before he spoke. "You're being heartless." The word hurt more because of where we were, because my clothes were on the floor, and his hand had been on my face moments earlier. "Heartless," I whispered. "Yes, not everything is about you, Jennifer." He finished dressing. I watched him put on his shoes. There are moments when the mind separates from the body because reality is too painful to absorb all at once. I saw every detail with unnatural clarity. The blue shirt he buttoned incorrectly at first, the phone in his hand, the shadow cast by the lamp, the indentation his body had left on the mattress. "Please don't go," I said. I hated myself for saying it. Liam paused. For 1 second, I thought he had heard what was beneath the words. I was not asking him to deny medicine to a sick woman. I was asking him to choose the relationship we had built. I was asking him to recognize that Chloe's need always arrived precisely when his attention returned to me. Then his phone vibrated again. He looked at it. "I'll call you tomorrow," he said. The door closed behind him. I sat in bed for a long time, still holding the sheet around me. The apartment was silent except for the refrigerator and the faint traffic outside. On the nightstand, 2 glasses of wine stood beside the lamp. His glass was half full. I picked it up and poured it down the sink. He texted at 1:17 in the morning. "She's okay. Migraine was bad. Hope you're asleep." No apology. No acknowledgement of what he had done. I did not answer. The next morning, he arrived with coffee and irritation. "I don't want to fight," he said. "Then why are you angry?" "Because you put me in an impossible position." I laughed once, a short sound with no humor in it. "I put you there. You wanted me to ignore someone asking for help. I wanted you to recognize a boundary." He shook his head. "You're obsessed with boundaries because you don't trust me." "I trusted you completely before you started giving another woman everything that belonged inside our relationship." His face changed. "Nothing belongs to you," he said. The sentence was probably meant to defend his independence. But it gave me the truth more clearly than he intended. His time did not belong to me. His loyalty did not belong to me. The future we planned did not belong to me. And increasingly, neither did he. Chapter 6. The following Monday, Liam asked me to meet him for lunch. I almost refused, but I was still trapped in the belief that one honest conversation could restore the man I loved. I thought perhaps he had reflected over the weekend. Perhaps he understood how deeply he had hurt me. When I entered the cafe, Chloe was sitting with him. Of course she was. She wore a cream sweater and was stirring sugar into her coffee. When she saw me, her mouth curved into a soft smile. "Jennifer, I hope you don't mind." I did not sit down. I thought Liam and I were having lunch. Liam looked annoyed already. "She was here when I came down." "I can leave," Chloe said. "No," I replied. "Stay." Something in my voice made both of them look at me. I slid into the seat across from them. For several minutes, no one spoke. A server brought menus. Chloe said she was not hungry. I almost laughed. Liam began talking about work, filling the silence with client numbers and deadlines. I watched him perform normality. He did not ask how I had slept after he left my apartment. He did not mention the argument. Then his phone rang. He glanced at the screen and stood. "I have to take this." The moment he walked outside, Chloe leaned back in the booth. Her entire posture changed. The anxious shoulders relaxed. The uncertain smile disappeared. "You really don't like me," she said. "I don't like what you're doing." "And what am I doing?" "Calling him for things you can handle yourself, interrupting our plans, making comments and pretending they're innocent." She studied me with open amusement. "You think I'm trying to steal your boyfriend?" "I think you enjoy proving that you can control him." For a second, neither of us moved. Then she smiled. Not the careful smile she used around Liam. This one was bright and cold. "I don't have to try very hard." My hands tightened beneath the table. Chloe leaned forward. "If I tell Liam I need him, he comes. If I say you were rude, he believes me. If I don't like a restaurant, we leave. If I want him at my apartment in the middle of the night, all I have to do is say my head hurts." She said the last sentence softly. The cruelty of it stole my breath. "You're proud of that." "I'm being honest." She lifted one shoulder. "You keep acting like you have some special claim on him, but you can't make him do anything." "I shouldn't have to make him." "No," she agreed, "but I can." The worst part was not that she said it. The worst part was that she was right. I could not force Liam to respect me. I could not argue him into loyalty. I could not present enough evidence to a man who enjoyed being needed more than he cared about understanding who was using him. The cafe door opened. Liam returned. Chloe's face transformed instantly. Her eyes dropped. Her shoulders drew inward. "Is everything okay?" he asked. She gave a small, brave smile. "It's fine." He looked at me. "What happened?" "Ask her," I said. Chloe shook her head. "Please don't. I don't want to make things worse." Liam sat beside her. "Chloe." She hesitated with perfect timing. "I just told Jennifer I hoped we could be friends. She said I was manipulating you." I stared at her. "That is not what happened." Liam's expression closed. "Did you accuse her again?" "She just told me she can make you do whatever she wants." Chloe gasped. "I never said that." "She mentioned the aspirin. She knows exactly what she's doing." People at the nearby tables had begun to look over. Liam lowered his voice. "Stop." "No, you wanted to talk. Let's talk. She is openly mocking me because every time she creates a situation, you choose her." Chloe's eyes filled with tears. They appeared so quickly that I almost admired the skill. "I should go," she whispered. Liam caught her wrist as she stood. "You don't have to leave." Then he turned to me. "Apologize." I thought I had misheard him. "What?" "You're humiliating her in public. Apologize." The room seemed to narrow around us. I saw the interested faces, the server pretending to organize napkins, Chloe's wet eyes, Liam's hand still around her wrist. And then I saw the corner of her mouth move. A tiny, satisfied smile. It was the same smile from the family party. Something inside me went still. "No," I said. Liam blinked. "Jennifer." "I will not apologize to her." "You're acting like a self-centered child." He said it loudly enough for the nearest tables to hear. The humiliation burned through me, but beneath it, something stronger began to rise. Not courage yet. Clarity. I stood and picked up my bag. "Enjoy lunch," I said. Liam followed me outside. "You can't keep walking away every time you're challenged." I turned so quickly that he stopped. "I have stayed through more than you understand." "Because you're determined to make Chloe the villain." "No, Liam. I stayed because I was determined not to see what you were becoming." His face tightened. "Then maybe we need space." The words hurt, but not in the way he expected. They sounded like permission. "Maybe we do," I said. I walked back to my office alone. Behind me, he returned to Chloe. Chapter 7. 2 days later, I woke with a sore throat. By noon, my muscles ached. By evening, I was shivering beneath 2 blankets while my skin felt painfully hot. I tried to convince myself it was a cold, but when I stood to get water, the room tilted. I had the flu. Under normal circumstances, I would have called Liam without hesitation. Illness had always stripped away my pride. When you are feverish and weak, the person you love becomes less an idea than a direction. You reach toward them instinctively. But we were taking space. I lay in bed staring at his name in my phone. Then I remembered him leaving at midnight because Chloe had a headache. Surely, I thought, whatever was happening between us, he would not ignore this. Surely the man who drove across town with aspirin would bring medicine to the woman he claimed to love. I called. He answered after 4 rings. "What is it?" His voice was guarded, almost impatient. "I'm sick." My throat hurt so badly that the words scraped. "I think it's the flu. I'm out of fever medicine and I'm having trouble standing." There was a pause. Then I heard a woman laugh in the background. "Chloe." Of course he was with her. "Where are you?" I asked. "At my place." "With Chloe." She stopped by after work. I closed my eyes. "Liam, can you please bring me medicine?" Before he answered, Chloe spoke loudly enough for me to hear. "Is Jennifer pretending to be sick now?" Her tone was light, almost playful. Liam covered the phone, but not completely. Their voices became muffled. I heard her say, "She knows you helped me. This is so obvious." Then Liam returned. "Do you actually have a fever?" The question broke something in me. Why would I lie? "I don't know, Jennifer. Maybe because you're trying to prove some point about Chloe. A laugh escaped me, weak and disbelieving. You think I gave myself the flu to compete with her migraine. I think the timing is convenient. I can barely stand. You said that already. In the background, Chloe murmured, "This is what I meant. She wants you to feel guilty." Liam exhaled. "Look, order something online. You live near a pharmacy." The exact argument I had made about Chloe. Except Chloe had not been shaking with fever. Except he had still gone. "I asked you for help," I whispered. "And I'm telling you what to do. Take some medicine and get rest." I pressed the phone against my ear, listening to the sound of his breathing and the faint music in his apartment. I imagined Chloe on his couch, comfortable and healthy, watching him refuse me. I had thought the worst pain would be losing Liam to another woman. It was not. The worst pain was realizing that he had taught himself to doubt my suffering because believing me would inconvenience her. "You know what?" I said. "Never mind." "Jennifer." I ended the call. For several minutes, I lay perfectly still. Then I began to cry. Not dramatic sobbing. I did not have the strength. Tears slid silently into my hair while I stared at the ceiling. I cried for the apartment we would never rent. I cried for the coffee shop where we met. I cried for every time I had swallowed an insult to protect the relationship. Mostly, I cried because part of me had still believed that when I truly needed him, Liam would remember who I was. He had remembered. He simply did not care enough to come. Around 9 that evening, my fever climbed higher. Every same-night pharmacy delivery slot was already closed, and the earliest available order would not arrive until the following afternoon. I tried calling a friend, but she was out of town. My neighbor did not answer. So I dressed myself. It took 15 minutes to put on sweatpants, a sweater, and a coat. I moved slowly, sitting down between each step. The hallway lights hurt my eyes. The cold air outside made my lungs ache, but the pharmacy was only 4 blocks away. I told myself I could make it. I do not remember most of the walk. I remember leaning against a bus shelter. I remember the fluorescent sign of the pharmacy appearing too bright in the dark. I remember the automatic doors opening and warm air hitting my face. Then someone said my name. "Jennifer." Grace stood behind the counter in a white pharmacy coat, staring at me with horror. She came around so quickly that she nearly knocked over a display. "Oh my God, what are you doing here?" "I need medicine." "You look terrible." "Thank you." She put a hand against my forehead and swore under her breath. "Where is Liam?" I laughed. It sounded broken. "Ask Chloe." Grace's expression changed. She guided me to a chair, brought water, and gathered everything I needed. When I tried to pay, my hands shook so badly that I dropped my card. Grace picked it up. "My brother let you come here alone." I looked at her. He didn't believe me. For a moment, she said nothing. Then anger filled her face with such force that I almost felt sorry for Liam. Almost. Chapter 8. Grace wanted to drive me to urgent care, but I refused. My fever was high, though not yet dangerous, and all I wanted was my bed. She drove me home, carried the pharmacy bag upstairs, and made me promise to call if my breathing worsened. Before she left, she stood beside my bed with her coat still on. "I'm going to talk to him." "Don't. He needs to know what he did." "He knows." "No," she said. "He knows what Chloe told him. That's not the same thing." I was too exhausted to argue. Grace left. Liam did not call that night. He did not call the next morning either. At noon, I woke to a knock. For one foolish second, hope rose in me so quickly that it hurt. I pulled myself out of bed and opened the door. Grace stood there holding a pot of soup, a bag of groceries, and an expression of embarrassed fury. Not Liam. Never Liam. She set everything in the kitchen, made tea, and waited until I was sitting beneath a blanket on the couch. Then she sighed. "My brother is an idiot." I managed a weak smile. "That is a kinder word than I've been using." "I think you should leave him." The directness of it startled me. Grace looked down at her hands. "I'm serious. I love him, but I don't recognize him right now." She told me what had happened after leaving the pharmacy. She had driven straight to Liam's apartment. Chloe was there, sitting on the couch with her shoes off. The two of them were laughing over something on television. Grace did not knock politely. She used the spare key their parents had given her years ago. "I asked him why you were walking through the cold with a fever while he sat there," she said. "What did he say?" "At first, that you were exaggerating." I closed my eyes. Grace continued. "Chloe said you were trying to punish him because he helped her. She said you had been jealous for weeks and this was another performance." And Liam believed her. He wanted to. That distinction mattered. Grace said she had told them she had seen me at the pharmacy. She had taken my temperature. She had watched me nearly drop to the floor. There was no question that I was genuinely ill. "I thought that would wake him up," she said. "For a second it did." She described the flash of shame in Liam's face. He stood. He reached for his keys. My heart tightened despite everything. Then Chloe spoke. "Flu is contagious," she reminded him. "Jennifer has medicine now. If you get sick, you'll miss the retreat." The company retreat was 2 weeks away at a resort outside the city. It was open to all branch employees, including administrative staff, and people from several locations would attend. Liam had talked about it for months because senior managers would be there. Chloe continued, saying it would be terrible if she became sick too. She had worked so hard to settle into the company. She was finally excited about something. "And he sat back down?" I asked. Grace's silence answered. "He said he would check on you later," she finally replied. Then Chloe said maybe not calling would teach you to stop manipulating him. I stared at her. Grace's voice shook with anger. "They were talking about teaching you a lesson, Jennifer, like you were a child, like ignoring you while you were sick was some kind of strategy." The room was very quiet. I looked at the soup steaming on the coffee table. Liam's sister had worked an entire shift, driven me home, confronted her brother, bought groceries, and cooked for me. Liam had done nothing. In that moment, the relationship ended inside me. Not loudly. There was no dramatic snap, no sudden hatred. It felt more like a light, switching off in a room I had been desperately trying to keep warm. I picked up my phone. Grace watched me but did not interfere. My hands were still weak. I typed slowly. "Liam, this relationship is over. Do not come to my apartment. I will leave your things with Grace when I'm well enough. Please return my key to her." I read the message twice. Then I sent it. His reply came 4 minutes later. "You are proving my point. We can talk when you calm down." I showed Grace. She closed her eyes. "I'm sorry." I deleted the message. Then I blocked his number. For the first time in weeks, I did not wonder whether I was being too harsh. I did not wonder whether Chloe would win. There was nothing left to win. Chapter 9. The flu lasted 6 days. The grief lasted longer. People sometimes imagine that leaving a cruel relationship brings immediate relief. It can, but relief and heartbreak are not opposites. They can live in the same body. I knew I had made the right decision, yet I still woke reaching for my phone. I still thought of things I wanted to tell Liam. A strange sign on my commute, a difficult client, a song we both loved. Then memory would return. "He did not believe you. He let you walk to a pharmacy with a fever. He and Chloe wanted to teach you a lesson." Those facts were bitter medicine, but they kept me from calling. Once my fever broke, I packed Liam's things into 2 bags, a jacket, 2 shirts, running shoes, a phone charger, and the good pillow he had always accused me of stealing. Grace picked them up, brought them to him, and returned my key in a small envelope. "He asked whether you were serious," she told me. "What did you say?" "That you had been serious for months. He just wasn't listening." I hugged her. Liam tried to contact me through email. His first message was angry. "You can't end 8 months over one misunderstanding." His second was more controlled. "We both said things. Let's take a week and discuss it like adults." His third blamed Chloe less and me more. "I admit I should have checked on you, but you created hostility from the beginning and put me in the middle." I did not answer any of them. The old Jennifer would have written paragraphs. She would have listed examples, quoted conversations, and explained each wound in careful language. She would have believed that if she found the perfect sentence, Liam would finally understand. But understanding was not the missing piece. Liam had seen my pain many times. He had simply decided Chloe's comfort mattered more. There was nothing left to explain. When I recovered enough to return to work, I passed the lobby cafe where we had met. The man behind the counter recognized me and asked whether Liam wanted his usual. "We're not together anymore," I said. The sentence felt strange in my mouth. The barista's face fell. "I'm sorry." "So am I." I took my coffee and walked away. At work, I threw myself into a campaign that had been stalled for weeks. My manager noticed the change and praised my focus. I almost laughed at the irony. For months, Liam had accused me of being self-centered while I had organized my life around his moods, his schedule, and Chloe's emergencies. Now, for the first time, I centered myself. It felt less like selfishness than oxygen. I deleted our apartment spreadsheet. That was harder than blocking his number. The file contained rent calculations, commute times, notes from viewings, and little comments we had written to each other. Hawthorne Street, Jen loves window. Liam hates tiny stove. Maple Avenue, good parking, haunted hallway. Ridge Road, absolutely not unless landlord removes carpet from 1987. I sat at my desk after work, staring at those lines until tears blurred the screen. The future can leave artifacts behind. Not photographs of things that happened, but evidence of things that almost did. I selected the file and pressed delete. The computer asked whether I was sure. I was not sure of anything except that I could not keep living inside a plan with someone who had abandoned me before we even signed the lease. I clicked yes. 2 weeks after our breakup, Grace called. The company retreat had taken place that weekend. Her first words were, "You are not going to believe what happened." But I did. Before she told me, some part of me already knew. People like Chloe do not stop testing power once they have proved they possess it. They simply look for a more valuable person to impress. Chapter 10. The retreat was held at a lakeside conference center 2 hours outside the city. Because it was open to all branch employees, administrative staff attended alongside the sales teams from Liam's location and 4 other branches. There were workshops during the day, dinner in the evening, and a reception where managers were expected to network. Grace knew the details because Liam had called her after returning home. "He sounded destroyed," she said. I sat at my kitchen table, holding the phone with both hands. I told myself I did not care. I cared enough to listen. Grace said Liam had told her that Chloe spent the drive to the retreat beside him. She asked him to save her a seat, complained about the bus temperature, borrowed his jacket, and told him she was nervous about meeting senior staff. He had reassured her all the way there. According to Liam's account, Chloe met Ryan Caldwell at the reception. He was the sales director from the Westbrook branch, older than Liam, better connected, and rumored to be under consideration for a regional position. The moment Chloe learned who he was, her behavior changed. She laughed at everything Ryan said. She asked about his career. She told him she had always wanted to move into corporate communications and would love advice from someone experienced. Liam told Grace that he approached with drinks he had brought for both of them. Chloe looked at him with polite confusion. According to Liam, Ryan asked whether they had come together. Chloe laughed before answering. "Oh no, Liam is just a coworker. He's friendly with everyone." Just a coworker. Friendly with everyone. The same man she had called in the middle of the night. The same man who had driven her home, paid for lunches, brought medicine, invited her to family events, and destroyed his relationship defending her. Reduced to a friendly coworker the moment someone more useful appeared. Liam tried to laugh with her. Chloe turned back to Ryan. Liam said that for the rest of the evening, Chloe avoided him. Whenever he joined a conversation, she found a reason to leave. When he asked whether she wanted to sit together at dinner, she told him Ryan had invited her to his table. Later, he said, he saw her outside on the terrace with Ryan's coat around her shoulders. His own jacket was still folded over the back of a chair where she had left it. I closed my eyes as Grace spoke. The symmetry was almost too perfect. Chloe had trained Liam to abandon me whenever she claimed to need him. Then, the moment he needed acknowledgement from her, she abandoned him. Grace said that, when Liam finally confronted Chloe, she called him intense and insisted that he had misunderstood her friendliness. I remembered the cafe. If I tell Liam I need him, he comes. She had never promised to come when he needed her. Did he confront her? I asked. Yes, according to him, she said she had never asked him to ruin his relationship. Helping her had been his choice. That was cruel. It was also true. Chloe had manipulated him, but she had not controlled his body. She had not forced him to leave my bed. She had not made him call me self-centered in front of his family. She had not placed the phone in his hand when I asked for medicine and told him to laugh at my fever. She had offered him a role, the rescuer, the important man, the person a fragile young woman could not manage without. He had chosen it because he liked how it made him feel. Grace, I said, why did he call you? He wanted someone to tell him he wasn't stupid. What did you tell him? That he was very stupid. Despite myself, I laughed. It was the first time I had laughed about any of it. Grace became quiet. He finally understands what you were saying. No, I replied. He understands what she did to him. There was a difference. A person can recognize a weapon only after it is used against them and still fail to care about everyone it cut before. He wants to talk to you, Grace said. I don't want to talk to him. I told him that. Thank you. When we ended the call, I sat alone at the table. I expected satisfaction. Instead, I felt sadness. Not because I wanted Liam back. Because his realization had come so cheaply compared with mine. He had been embarrassed at a party. I had been slowly dismantled for weeks. He had been ignored by Chloe for one evening. I had been ignored while sick, humiliated in public, and taught to doubt my own judgment. Yet now that pain had touched him, he believed it was finally real. The next evening, he came to my door. Chapter 11. I almost did not open the door. Liam knocked 3 times, waited, and then said my name through the wood. Jennifer, I know you're home. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I just need 5 minutes. I should have stayed silent. But there are endings that remain heavy until you look directly at them. I wanted to see whether he had changed or merely been wounded. I opened the door, but did not invite him inside. He looked worse than Grace had described. His confidence was gone. He held the folded apartment listings and kept shifting his weight as rain darkened the shoulders of his shirt. I was wrong, he said. I waited. Chloe was using me. There it was. Not I hurt you. Not I abandoned you. Chloe was using me. What happened at the retreat? I asked, though I already knew. He confirmed the outline Grace had given me. Chloe had attached herself to Ryan, dismissed Liam as merely friendly, and then accused him of misunderstanding her. This time, Liam did not linger over every detail. He stopped describing Chloe and admitted what had actually wounded him. Everyone saw it, he said. I felt like an idiot. Everyone saw it. That was what hurt him most. I thought of the cafe where he had demanded that I apologize while strangers watched. I thought of his family's dinner table and Chloe's satisfied smile. I know that feeling, I said. He looked down. I deserve that. It isn't an insult, it's the truth. I know, he rubbed a hand over his face. I kept thinking about everything you said, the lunches, the family party, the aspirin. And the flu. His hand dropped. Shame moved across his face. Yes. I waited for him to speak. I should have come. You should have believed me. I know. You believed her without evidence, and you doubted me when I was asking for help. She got in my head. No. The word came out sharper than anything else I had said. Liam stared at me. She did not get into your head and take control, I continued. You liked what she gave you. She made you feel important. She let you rescue her. Every time I questioned it, you protected that feeling by making me the problem. He opened his mouth, then closed it. I went on because I had spent too long swallowing these words. You called me jealous when she insulted me. You called me emotional when you embarrassed me in front of your family. You left my bed in the middle of the night because she wanted aspirin. Then, when I had a fever and could barely walk, you decided I was lying because helping me would have required admitting I was right. His eyes filled. A month earlier, his tears would have broken me. Now they only showed me that he was finally standing close enough to the damage to see it. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I believe you." Hope flashed across his face. I hated that one sentence could still give him hope, so I continued. "But being sorry does not rebuild trust. We can try." "No. Jennifer, please, we were good before this. We were good before you had an opportunity to be cruel." He flinched. "That's not who I am. It is who you were when it mattered." Rain ran from his hair onto his forehead. He wiped it away impatiently. "I made mistakes, terrible mistakes, but 8 months meant something. They meant everything to me. Then how can you throw it away?" I looked at him for a long time. "I didn't throw it away." He went still. "You did," I said, "one choice at a time." He held out the apartment listings. "I kept these. I know it sounds stupid, but I kept thinking about Hawthorne Street, about the room with the gray walls. We could start again somewhere else." The pages trembled slightly in his hand. I did not take them. "We could move in," he continued. "Maybe not immediately. We could go slowly. Counseling, boundaries, whatever you need." Whatever you need. For weeks, my needs had been proof of selfishness. Now that he was afraid of losing me, they had become negotiable. "I needed you to believe me," I said. "I needed you not to humiliate me. I needed you to come when I was sick. Those were not complicated needs." He looked as though I had struck him. "I can be better." "Maybe you can. Then give me a chance to prove it." "No." He stared at me, and I watched the last of his certainty disappear. It was difficult. I will not pretend it was not. I still knew the shape of his smile, the sound of his footsteps in my hallway, the warmth of his hand around mine. Love does not vanish simply because it becomes unsafe. But love is not a command to return. I had finally learned that. Chapter 12. Liam lowered the apartment listings. "So that's it." "Yes." "You don't feel anything." The question was almost cruel in its desperation. "I feel more than I want to," I said. "That's why I'm not coming back." He looked toward the street, blinking against the rain. "I thought we were going to have a life." So did I. The answer seemed to surprise him. Perhaps he had imagined that refusing reconciliation required erasing every good memory. It did not. I could remember the lobby cafe, the lake, the ridiculous hotel photographs, and the spreadsheet labeled OUR Place. I could love the man he had been in those moments and still refuse the man standing at my door. "We could have moved in together," I said. "We could have gotten married. We could have had a child." His face crumpled. I continued, not to punish him, but because this was the truth that had saved me. "And if I had learned who you become when another woman makes you feel important after we shared a lease, a marriage, or a child, the damage would have been much worse." He said nothing. "You think Chloe destroyed us," I said. "She didn't. She revealed you before I built my entire life around you." His eyes dropped to the papers. For the first time, he seemed to understand that they were not evidence of a future we could recover. They were evidence of how close I had come to tying myself to someone who could be persuaded to doubt my pain. "What am I supposed to do now?" he asked. It was the old Liam speaking, the man who wanted a woman to tell him how to repair what he had broken. "I don't know. Jennifer, you will have to figure it out without me." I began to close the door. He placed one hand against it, not pushing, just delaying. "I really am sorry." "I know. Do you hate me?" I considered the question. "No." That answer hurt him more than anger would have. "I don't hate you," I said. "I just don't trust you with my life anymore." He removed his hand. I closed the door. For several seconds, I stood with my palm against the wood. My whole body trembled. Tears rose, hot and immediate, and I let them fall. Strength is often described as a clean, victorious feeling. It is not. Sometimes strength is sobbing against a closed door while refusing to open it. I listened to Liam's footsteps move down the stairs. A car started. Then the street became quiet again. In the kitchen, the soup had begun to simmer too hard. I wiped my face, turned down the heat, and opened a window to let out the steam. My lease was ending at the close of the month, a date Liam and I had once treated as our deadline for finding a place together. On the table lay a new apartment listing. I had printed it that morning. It was not for Liam and me. It was not a symbol of marriage or children or the life I had once expected. It was a small one-bedroom apartment closer to my office, with good light and enough space for a desk beside the window. The rent fit my salary. No one had to approve it. The next weekend, I toured the apartment alone. The walls were white. The kitchen was narrow. The bedroom overlooked a row of maple trees. There was no second room called the future. There was only the present. For the first time, that was enough. I signed the lease. Grace helped me move. She arrived with coffee, packing tape, and the good pillow Liam had once claimed belonged to him. He said you could keep it, she told me. How generous. We laughed until tears came to my eyes, but this time they were not only from pain. In the new apartment, I placed the pillow on my bed and my books beside the window. I bought a small table, 2 plants, and a bright yellow kettle. Nothing matched perfectly. Nothing had been chosen by spreadsheet. It felt like mine. Months later, I saw Chloe in the lobby cafe where Liam and I had first met. She was walking beside a man I did not recognize, speaking with animated concern while he carried her bag. She saw me. For a second, her expression tightened. I smiled, not the smile I had used to hide humiliation, but a real one. Then I kept walking. I never asked what happened between her and Liam after the retreat. It no longer mattered. When I saw her, I did not feel robbed. I felt relieved that the contest she had created no longer included me. For months, I had thought the timing of the breakup was a tragedy. Now I understood its mercy. Liam had shown me how easily he could dismiss my reality before a shared lease made leaving harder. That knowledge hurt, but it also set me free. Everything had not worked out because he returned. It had worked out because I no longer needed him to choose me. I had chosen myself. Epilogue. For a long time, I was embarrassed by how much I tolerated. I replayed the lunches, the family party, the night Liam left, and the phone call during my fever. I asked myself why I had not walked away sooner. The answer is simple. I loved him. Love does not make a person stupid, but it can make familiar pain look temporary. It can persuade you to wait for someone to become who they were at the beginning. It can turn your own instincts into enemies because accepting the truth feels more frightening than enduring one more disappointment. I kept hoping Liam would see Chloe clearly. What I should have been watching was how he chose to see me. A loyal partner does not need proof beyond your discomfort to take your feelings seriously. A loving man does not humiliate you so another woman can feel protected. He does not call you heartless for asking for boundaries, then deny your illness because believing you would interfere with his plans. Chloe's manipulation mattered, but Liam's choices mattered more. That distinction gave me my life back. I no longer needed him to admit every detail or agree with my version of events. I no longer needed Chloe exposed before an audience. I did not need revenge. I needed distance. I needed to trust the woman who had noticed the first small smile across a cafe table. I needed to forgive her for staying, then honor her for finally leaving. Sometimes heartbreak does not save you. It simply reveals the boundary you will never cross again. Liam did not intend to teach me that. He showed me what affection becomes when respect disappears under pressure. I no longer measure stability by how peaceful love feels when no one challenges it. I measure it by whether respect survives conflict. The life I built afterward began quietly, with a home I chose alone, with friends who believed me the first time, with the certainty that love should never require me to argue for the truth of my own pain. There was no dramatic revenge. Only one bright window, a yellow kettle, and the knowledge that I would never again beg someone to believe me.